Welcome everybody to the race preview analysis. This week we have Jared Shoemaker joining us. Jared, say hello to everybody.
Hello, good evening.
So yeah, Jared, he also is owner of Endurance Shield. Tell us a little bit about Endurance Shield, Jared.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, Alicia and I, my wife Alicia Kay, and I moved down to Florida and basically had to start wearing sunscreen every single day. And we went through a lot of sunscreens. We still actually have a box of them sitting over there, and we basically hated every single one of them for one reason or another. So we just decided that we should try and do it better, and ended up working out a formula and started Endurance Shield and created a sunscreen that has moisturizer as well as SPF, so it actually refreshes and rehydrates your skin and stays on for long rides and stays on in the water, which obviously is super important for us triathletes. And it's kind of been a side project for us while we're racing, and slowly building a brand as well as racing is tough, but we've had a lot of fun with it. And it's fun to have something, and it's actually pretty interesting how many pros are using our sunscreen in both cycling and triathlon right now.
And you have chamois cream too, right? Because I've heard that stuff's really good.
Yeah, we have chamois cream, and it's a super super quiet product. It's funny. There's 3 or 4 stores that sell it, and they can't restock it fast enough. And I mean, of course, Alicia and I wear it almost every ride. But that's all about making sure you've got the right amount of hydration plus natural antibiotics like tea tree oil and stuff like that. Yeah, we ride way too much, and you got to keep that area as fresh as possible.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I've heard about it is that my local shop has it, and when they run out, they'll be like, okay, I'll just ration what I have until more comes in. Like they don't want to use anything else.
Yeah, that's right, and we're the same way actually, because it takes a long time for us to get our stock up, and we seem to always be running behind. So I have a bottle of it right now, and I'm using it very sparingly because I don't even know when I'm going to get my next one.
Oh, nice. Awesome. All right. So our listeners can enjoy uh, Endurance Shield for 25% off with what's the code again, Jared?
The code is TRI Preview, TRI Preview, and you can do it off our website, enduranceshield.com, and check it out and give us a shot. And if you have any questions, you can email the email off the website, and that actually comes to me, so you can email me.
Awesome. Perfect. So you can correspond with the owner if you have questions about your sunscreen.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So Edmonton this weekend, sprint distance. Let's talk about the women's race first. The top 3 gals in the rankings are not racing this weekend. So no Groff or True, no Jorgensen, and no Zafaris.
And no Hewitt.
Oh, and no Hewitt, top 4. So none of them are there. So does that make it kind of wide open?
I feel like there's still there's, I don't want to say a second tier, but there's a bunch of girls who are, you know, who haven't raced as much at the beginning of the year. And I mean, Non Stanford and Vicky Holland are 2 of them. Um, you also have people like Aaron Densham, Emma Moffitt, Vidula Frontova. You got this whole crew that hasn't been necessarily racing or consistent all year long that's kind of put it together the last couple of races.
Right, and like someone like Vicky Holland could move up not quite a bit, but she could definitely move up in the rankings because she's only got I believe, 3 scores right now that are ranking. So she could definitely move up in the overall for a little bit more kind of money at the end of the year, I guess, with a good performance.
Yeah, I mean, she looked phenomenal in a couple of her last races, and I mean, she was right there in Rio and in Hamburg, so and she's been there before too, which is the other thing. I think people who know how to win can get back there a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I mean, and obviously Nan was second in Rio, so she's been running really well. She'll be someone, they'll both be up there out of the swim. What about Helen Jenkins? What happened to her in Rio? Because she was on the start list, and then I don't know if she even started or if she was injured and didn't even start the race.
Uh, I know she started the race, and I think she dropped out on the bike. I have no clue what happened to her because I wasn't there at that point.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, she's another one who has had, I mean, highs and lows, and you never can count her out if she's going good. She's always in the mix, and she's just strong. She's an extremely strong athlete, and she's able to push through a lot. And I mean, I definitely, I don't see it out of the question that you could have a British podium of those three girls. There's definitely, in a sprint distance race, they're all good swimmers. They're going to be up towards the front, and they're going to be pushing the pace.
okay. And then, I mean, so you're probably going to have your usual suspects out in front out of the swim, like Routier, Oliveira, um, Kirsten Sweetland is coming back around after kind of a slower start to the year. So do you think you'll have like a group that can stay away on the bike, or like especially if they have someone like Flora Duffy kind of driving the train, or do you think it's all going to come back together for the women? How do you think, that kind of dynamic might play out?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, more or less it depends on the swim there, because the Edmonton swim is completely different than any other swim that we do. The way the start is, you basically start up in a line, and the first turn buoy is a left-hander at about 150, 175 meters. And if you're
Ooh,
left, you're pretty much good to go. If you're right, you've got to be extremely tactical about what you do and where you go, because you can be 30 meters wider on the first buoy, and
right.
making this huge arc. So it tends to be very beneficial to be highly ranked at this race. So I can see, some of those girls who are ranked up at the front there, Flora,
Yeah.
even Lindsay and Ann Hogg. If a couple of them get out together, because of the swim being a little bit more advantageous for a high ranking, there definitely can be a breakaway. And I mean, I train with Flora. We have the same coach, and so I know how well she rides hills and she corners. And I think that's a huge advantage, the way this course is set up with the hills, the downhills, the roundabout, and then back into transition. So I
Okay.
can see a group staying away.
Okay. And then, so the swim, I'm getting some feedback. So the swim is, if you're lined up way right, you're going to end up swimming 30 meters longer, basically.
Yeah, it's weird because you're basically going around a left-hand turn at about 150, 175, but then it's actually a hard two right-hand buoys that aren't separated by very much to go back the other direction. So you can just end up being pushed really wide at that point because the pack is still not strung out.
Right.
And that's what happened in our men's race last year, where if you watch the video, everybody gets to the left-hand turn at the same time, and everybody arcs it at the exact same speed. But of course, the guy who's the furthest out on the arc has to swim so much further, and so it's actually not that advantageous to get out really fast on the right side. You actually kind of want to slide over and cut the buoy from the backside. It's better to kind of cut across and swim last to the first buoy because you're actually going to be closer to the front.
Oh. So that's some good advice if anybody's listening. They should slide in behind everybody instead of staying wide and staying out of the fray.
Yeah, that might have been what I did last year.
Did it help? Did you move up?
Oh, definitely. I was last to the first buoy, and I came out of the water mid-pack. I mean, there's obviously other things because then you're taking a right-hand turn, but the guys on the right side ended up. Richard was one of them. He ended up way back because of the swim. So it's just a tough swim. You have to be either fast or tactical about it.
Okay. Well, that could definitely like break things up because, with a sprint distance, it's like a little mistake like that. I mean, and you miss that front group and then nothing comes back together. Like it's hard to catch up on a 5K. Like people are running pretty fast now. And like you were saying, a lot of the women are really working on their runs because, I mean, Gwen Jorgensen's obviously not racing, but when she is racing, everybody knows that they need to step up their game on the run. So, like you said, a lot of people are working hard on their runs. So, who are kind of people who are going to be really fast runners and could take this?
I mean, I think the best runners in the field are Vicky and Non. They're just, I mean, if you look through their run splits, they're the ones who basically have the fastest run splits. I mean, Rachel Klammer has been very consistent all year, and she's a super fast runner as well. She's also ranked number one, which is going to be a little help for her because she's not a bad swimmer, but she's definitely not a top 3 or 4 out of the water swimmer. So
Right.
for her, it might give her the chance to be in that front group up there with somebody like Flora and Non, where she normally might be just a little bit behind. Yeah, I mean, I think the top runners are actually the girls who are ranked up in the top 15 to 20 there.
Yeah.
And Lisa Purder is also another phenomenal runner, and she's a little bit hot and cold with her swimming and her biking, but when she's on as a runner, she's just as fast as those girls.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I haven't heard a ton about her. How about like someone like Aileen Reed? I mean, she's ranked third in this race. So is she someone who could finish up there? I mean, she's had some good races in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at what she's done this year, she's been in the mix, and she's also a very strong athlete. She's a pretty strong cyclist, which I think helps a lot, especially on this type of course where you have a couple hills and some cornering. I mean, she's right up there. It's definitely. I mean, she obviously didn't have the best race in Rio, but if you look back earlier part of the season and overall, she's ranked really well.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, do you have any good questions for Jared? I know sometimes you come up with some great stuff.
Yeah. So Gwen is obviously not there, and then True's not there, and besides them, Vicky's the only one else to win. Does the strategy change any for the other women?
I don't know that there's a strategy change. I think and I hope that all the other athletes are racing as hard as they can, at every race. I'm sure that I think this gives an opening for somebody else to win a race this year without Gwen and Sarah there. And I don't necessarily think that somebody's going to say, "Oh, they're not here. I'm going to race differently." I think people are still going to be racing really hard. I think Flora's going to be pushing the bike. I don't really think the tactics are going to change very much because you don't have those people. I still think that there's that the group of people who have been finishing third, fourth, fifth, and sixth this year are still in this race.
Right.
Yeah.
Is someone like Flora Duffy, is she, I mean, so you've trained with her, is she someone who on the run like could have a great day and hang with Non and Vicky and maybe, I mean, she's been at or close to the podium quite a few times this year. Is she someone who could maybe take her a win?
I mean, Flora will probably beat me up on the bike next time I ride with her, but she's just that half step behind them, I think, in her running, and that's not to say she's bad at all. She's a phenomenal runner, but Flora also has been kind of building through the season, so it's not something that I'd put out of reach, but I think they're definitely a little bit quicker than she is. But she's the strongest cyclist by far. So if she can make them hurt that little bit more, or if she can find a way to get away with one or two other girls and get a 20, 30-second lead, she might be able to hold on. I mean, in Abu Dhabi, she was off the front in that race, and it took a while for them to catch her. So if she plays her cards correctly and they let her go a little bit, that might work for her. But I don't think in a straight up 5K run race she's going to outrun them. She'll be third, fourth in just a straight up 5K. But she's smart.
Do you think like Helen Jenkins, if she's healthy, would be someone that would go with her, or because that would be like breaking away from her Great Britain teammates, would she not work with Flora? Like, how does that work? Because, I mean, Helen would want to win the race, right? So why not go up the road? Like, she might need a little bit of a lead off the bike. Would she work with someone, which would basically be working against Vicky and Nan?
Absolutely. It's funny. I think sometimes we get caught up in the whole country thing during races, and I feel like she's going to work as hard as she can to win the race because she wants to win it. I don't think she's going to sit there and say, oh, Vicky's ranked this and she could move up to this if she finishes first or second or third, or Nan was the world champion a couple years ago and she's come in second place at this race and she could do this. I think I really feel like if that opportunity presents itself, athletes know that Flora is going to try and push, and they're going to try and find a way to get on her wheel. And it's just a question of if they can survive that and what that's then going to take off their run.
So that's a good. Who can survive
it? Flora's biking. The guys can survive it. I mean, she's just a phenomenal cyclist, and she's a phenomenal bike handler. And that's one of the things that I think gets overlooked on some of these courses. If she's so much better at taking 180s and corners, she has to put out that much less power than the next person, which actually makes it tougher sometimes in a 2 or 3 person breakaway for that other person, those other people behind to kind of stay tagged along. Because if she goes through those corners and hammers it, they've got to then put out the effort, 500, 600, 700 watts sustained to try and catch back up to her when she's just back into steady state.
Oh, so maybe she'll just go it alone.
She could, yeah. I wouldn't put it past her. I don't know what the plan is. I haven't talked to her, the coach, but I think so. And I think you see that in other races as well, where she's been at the front and people have kind of said, you know what, this isn't worth it. I'm gonna hang up. Or maybe they were trying really hard and they said this isn't worth it. I'm just gonna slow down and go back to the group.
Right, and she'll be someone who's out of the water in the front.
Absolutely, yeah. She's a phenomenal swimmer.
Okay. So who are your podium picks if you had to pick?
My podium picks, I think Nan Stanford for the win, Vicky Holland in second, and Rachel Klammer in third. But I wouldn't put it past British sweep with Helen in there.
If she's healthy, which we just won't know, I guess.
Exactly.
Until the race.
Exactly, yeah. There's not enough Twitter comments and inside information in triathlon.
Yeah, we try to get it occasionally, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, there's not as many leaks as there are from football and baseball, and this person's on the DL.
I know. We're trying to make that happen, but we'll see. So men's race.
I got one more thing on the women's.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Okay, so talking about USA Olympic qualification real fast. So Lindsay is the top-ranked U.S. woman in this race. Can she show something towards the Olympic Committee, since the third spot is really unknown at this point as far as which race or how it's going to be determined?
it's pretty much all based on points at this point. So I think the quick and simple answer to that is that Katie would have to do something really silly in Chicago and the race next year to not get the spot. And I mean really silly by basically not starting. Um,
All right. Well, simple answer is good enough for me then.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fairly cut and dry at this point. The amount of points that she already has from Stockholm, from Rio, and I mean this race is so small on the point scale. I forget the exact number. I believe it's only worth half or even less than that of the three auto races. So uh, yeah, I mean I'd love to say that I think that somebody else can sneak in there, but if Katie would have to do something really silly, like not start those races to miss out on the team.
Oh, well, that's good for Katie, bad for others. But
It also shows how I mean how good those three girls are, and
well,
I
yeah.
mean it's pretty impressive what they've done this year and how good and consistent they've been.
Yeah, the consistency is amazing, especially at this distance and how intense it is with all, just everything that goes into it, the training, the travel. Um, it's really impressive. Those three gals have done a great job.
Yep, agreed. And training and watching and being friends with them, I know it's a lot of work for them too, and it's a lot of pressure too. So it is very impressive for them to do what they've done.
Yeah. All right, so men, and on the men's side, the Olympic qualification is a little bit different. So we can kind of, I mean, that's a good segue. We'll just talk about that first. So, I mean, this race does factor in a little bit to the selection if no one gets the automatic spots, correct?
Yeah, it's basically for the guys. There's one spot open in Chicago if you come in top 8. And then next year there'll be a spot open at a race to be determined, and there's a sliding scale based on if it's a WTS or a World Cup. And it's seeing how we've all performed up to this point. It's probably not going to happen that somebody will get a top 8 in Chicago, although you know not on it could happen. But I think that it's going to end up coming down to the point system, and this race in Edmonton is another points race, which there's 5 races, and your best 2 scores count. This one's worth less than Stockholm, which is worth less than the 3 auto qualifying races. But it's still points that you're gonna put on the board, and somebody else isn't gonna get.
Right. And I think that's, we Joe Malloy sent us an email and said like he wasn't super pleased with Stockholm. He ran well there. I think he had like the 5th best 10K of the day, but kind of missed that first group on the swim. So he really wants to have a good race here, probably leading into Chicago. How do you think like someone like him, he's ranked 29th, so he might be kind of more on the outside of that swim start. So he's going to have to do it tactically correct.
Yeah, he is. He has a couple of good swimmers around him, which I don't know in this type of a race isn't necessarily a good thing because you want to try and get out fast and get clean water. I mean the problem is that the top of the list with Javi and Vincent Louis and Pereira has been swimming well, and Aaron Royal and Varga.
Yeah.
You've got all the phenomenal swimmers who are ranked at the top,
Yeah.
and so they're potentially just going to hit that corner and gain even more time over the back group. And I think that's what's going to put both Joe and Eric at a disadvantage in this race. Normally I'd say that Eric would be out in the first group, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher for him to come out in the first group based on the swim. And Joe is the same way. Joe's a great swimmer, and when he can get out really strong, but it's going to be kind of hard to do it from the middle of the run in.
Yeah. And so is that a group that could stay away? Like in these sprint races, is it harder to bring the race back together because people are more motivated maybe over 20K?
Absolutely. I fully expect that there's going to be a group on the front that's going to be pushing really, really hard and is going to stay away. And to me, it seems like the sprint races, when you come out of the water and get into a group, that's kind of the way it stays. It doesn't seem like those races pack back up and there aren't really attacks. It's just kind of a all-out 20K bike. If 10 guys are together and 20 guys are together and 20 more guys are together, it kind of stays in that group separated by 30, 40 seconds between each group. And with this course and with the uphill, downhills, and corners, I can definitely see a smaller group of 10 or 12 people staying off the front, and the bigger groups in the back getting a little bit bogged down.
So could someone like Murray, will he make the front group?
Yeah. I think this puts him in probably the best situation for him to do it in any race. That's what I'd say. I mean, his swim has gotten so much better over the past couple years, but this type of race is definitely going to play into Mario and Richard's hands, and even I mean, Grajales is a phenomenal swimmer on his own, but those guys I think will end up being towards the front of the swim, whereas if it were a straight up race, they might be 10, 15 seconds back further.
Right, and that 10 15 seconds is like the difference sometimes between the first pack and the second pack.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mario's races, and I think he ran 13:55 in Hamburg, and it was like 20 seconds faster than everybody else, but it only got him back up to third place. And then in Rio, I mean, Richard's run was otherworldly, and it only got him back up to the podium. Right. So it can make a difference, just that 10 or 15 seconds.
So between Mola and Murray, they're both really strong runners. Which one is the better 5K runner?
Mario.
Yeah. So no question.
Yeah.
He can lay down a 5K. So if Mario comes off the bike, say within 10 seconds of the front, can he and say Vincent Louis is at the front, will he catch Vincent Louis and win?
I would say so. I mean, I actually trained with Mario and Richard a couple years ago. We had the same coach, and so I've gotten the pleasure of running with them, and Mario just has such amazing leg turnover that coming off the bike for him, especially in a sprint distance race, he just keeps his turnover really high, and he's unbelievable over a 5K distance. Richard's a lot more of a strength athlete, and he can run fast for 5K, but his bread and butter is really a hard bike into a strong 10K run.
Yeah, I think I've kind of noticed that because Mola, kind of killed it at Abu Dhabi on the run, Hamburg on the run, so definitely seems like he's a great 5K. How do you think Gomez is going to do coming off of, he did Stockholm, then he did 70.3 Worlds, and now he's doing this? Do you think he'll be a little, I mean, I still think he'll be strong, but is he going to be a little less, say, sharp over a sprint distance?
I was shocked that he was even on the start list after what he's done, and the fact that he was sick, too. I heard that he got sick, I believe it was after Stockholm, before 70.3s, and I'm shocked that he's on the start list. I guess he has to come over here to race in the U.S. anyways, so might as well come to a sprint race before Chicago. But I mean, honestly, I feel like he's pushing it a little too hard, and hopefully it doesn't catch up to him in Chicago, or maybe I do hope it catches up to him in Chicago. But and also knowing how hard that race was at 70.3s, from talking to Alicia about it, I mean, she's still feeling it a couple days after. The heat was pretty intense there, and a lot of people had heat issues. So, to recover from that type of an effort, just in general is hard. To recover from it in the heat is even harder. So, I never will put it past Javi, because he's probably the best athlete in triathlon ever, really. I mean, he's been as consistent as anybody has ever been, and he's been at the top for since I got into the sport. So I wouldn't put it past him, but I think he's going to have his work cut out for him, and he's probably going to be that 1% off that's going to cause him to finish outside of the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's what Zach and I were thinking, and I mean, and he's got to travel too. So he's got the race, he's got travel. I mean, it's just a lot, A half Ironman's not easy, and I know he's well trained, but I mean, it's just that's a big effort, like you said, to come. And I just feel like someone like Vincent Louis or Mola are just going to be a little bit sharper and can capitalize on that.
Exactly. I mean, the one thing he does have going for him is it is a little bit easier to travel west than east.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be tough for him, and I think these other guys are going to be on their game, ready to go, and and that's the crazy thing about our sport now is you can be 1% off and you're off the back, and I think we're seeing that a lot more over the past couple of years where you have 65 guys starting and only 45 or 50 guys are finishing, because if you just don't feel that it's just perfect on that day, you just get dropped on the swim and the bike, and there's nothing you can do because people are racing so hard now that it's really tough to fake it.
Right.
Yeah, one comment on Javier. I mean, like you said, you don't even know why he's there. He can only gain 60 points in his total, ranking because he all has first and seconds for his 5 races. Now, obviously, money's a different factor too, but
yeah, that's true. I haven't even looked at the ranking thing, and that's just it's an interesting decision. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what him and his coach are thinking, but to me, I was shocked. I wasn't expecting him to be on the start list to begin with. So
I wasn't either, honestly. I mean, and this is good for Vincent Louis. He's only got 4 scoring races right now. So if he finishes really high in this one, he could definitely move up just a little bit in the rankings. So. And, it would be kind of helpful for him if Gomez was to step off. But he beat Gomez in Hamburg, so, who the hell knows? What about, like the Canadians? You think someone like Tyler Messelchuk, who got 10th in London, could kind of get excited racing in front of his home crowd?
He's a really good young athlete, and it's funny. It seems like he almost came out of nowhere. But he's a very solid athlete, and he's very smart the way he races. He doesn't do too much. He does enough, and his run has really come around. I think this is a pretty strong field, and I think he'll be in there. But over the sprint distance, it's a completely different ball game. You just have to be up there on the swim, and he's generally been coming out in the top 20, 25 people. Somewhere in that 20 to 25, 30 range. So he's generally been towards the front, but to kind of really win this race, I just believe that you have to be top 10 out of the water with those guys, because they're going to be going for it.
Yeah. So who are your kind of podium picks then?
My podium would be Vincent Louis, Mario. And then I've kind of got a toss-up because I really think that Aaron Royal's racing really well, and I think Grajales has raced very well, and if he can come out in that front group, he can run with those guys. And then Richard's just in a good position in this race. So I'm kind of torn over my third place pick, but I think I'd have to say that I think Grajales might do it and get on the podium, which would be pretty big for him. But he's a very, very quick runner. He's got good turnover.
Okay. What about Pereira and Silva, the Portuguese guys? They've done pretty well, and Silva hasn't kind of had the season that I think he was hoping for. Is he someone that could be up there maybe? Top 10?
Yeah, Silva seems to be a little bit up and down. He obviously had some phenomenal races a couple of years ago, and then he wasn't doing very well at the beginning of the year. He's definitely a wild card in there. His swim's been failing him a bit this year, though.
Okay.
And I think in this type of a swim, it's really hard if you don't have confidence in your swim. Pereira, his swim has obviously been getting better. I mean, he came out of the water in the top 10 in Stockholm, and that basically set him up for the race that he had. He's a strong athlete. I just don't know that he has the speed over 5K.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more like Richard in that he's a very strong athlete. He's a very good cyclist as well and runner. So I just think that some of the other guys have a little bit more leg speed. But you could see a pretty good race there between some of those guys if the front group stays away and you have some of those top ranked athletes. It could be a really cool race between a third, fourth, fifth, sixth sprint.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach? Anything we've missed?
Well, let's jump on the U.S. men real fast. I mean, you got a small, you only got 4 U.S. men, but you got Kevin McDowell, Joe Malloy, and Eric Langerstorm, and then Sean Jefferson. Do you think any of them have a top 10 potential?
Not in this race, no. I think that I just think that the guys that are up front are racing super well, and Joe has been very consistent, and he's been very consistent getting that 15th to 20th place, which is awesome in his consistency. But he's always been just that little bit behind the fastest runs. Eric has found absolutely amazing run legs this year, but for me, I mean, I'd love to see him do well in this race, but I have a feeling that it's going to be really tough for him on this swim because of where he's ranked. He could get clear water and make it out to the first turn pretty good, but I think it's going to be pretty tough from the backside there. Sean, I trained with him for a while. He actually lived at my house for a year and a half, and he's a great runner, and he's been working really hard on his swim. And he was coached by Darren, and now he's back training in LA. And he's going to end up probably in that third pack and have a good run, but I don't think he's going to be up there at the front of the race or going for a top 10. And then Kevin's raced a lot this year, and he's done very well. And I feel like he raced really well at the beginning of the year, and he was traveling a lot. And I feel like it's caught up to him a little bit in his last couple races. He's an absolutely phenomenal athlete, though, and the sprint distance definitely favors him a bit more than the full Olympic. I mean, he has great foot speed and turnover for a 5K. So top 10 probably not, but I can easily see the Kevin and Eric and Joe coming in somewhere in that 12 to 25 range, running out of the second pack, running very competitively out of the second pack.
All right.
Awesome. All right. I think that we got a good rundown on everything, and it's definitely different than kind of your normal race previews that you can read online.
Yeah, what do you think, Jared? You like this better than the other previews since you were the one on Twitter bashing all the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Well, I did go and read the ITU preview, and there were 4 people mentioned in it. So I think we covered a little bit more than that.
Maybe I think just a hair more.
Yeah, exactly. I think the ultimate thing is, our sport's still a little bit, we keep close to our what is it? You keep your cards close to your heart or whatever it is.
Close to your chest.
I think we don't tell people when we're hurt or when we're feeling good, and you just go out there and race hard. But I think that's the fun thing about the sport is that you show up and you're as fit as you are, and you feel like you have an opportunity to race and win on that day. And so do probably 10 or 15 other people on the start line. And you just got to find a way to play your cards that you've worked on really well. And I mean, the cool thing about both the men's and women's side is I think they're both pretty open races, and I think they'll be kind of fun to watch because you don't have Gwen on one side, and the guys racing right now is pretty amazing in that nobody is head and shoulders above.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Thanks.